I'm Danny Epperson at the alluring Commodore Dinner Theater in downtown Portsmouth. Thanks for joining me for WHRO Cinema 15 and our presentation of 1967's dramatic comedy, The Graduate. Even though The Graduate turns 52 this year, nothing about it feels old. It's a timeless work of art, as powerful, fresh, and original today as it was in 1967. The movie captured the cultural zeitgeist of the 60s and spoke to all audiences, young and old. The Graduate was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, and Mike Nichols not only took home the Oscar for Best Director, he helped to launch a revolution in American film.
And my greatest pleasure in The Graduate was making it. It's a picture made by a group. We cared for each other, and we cared for what we were doing.
It all started with Charles Webb's 1963 debut novel, The Graduate. It tells the story of Benjamin Braddock, a 21-year-old college grad who is seduced by Mrs. Robinson, the wife of his father's business partner.
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
Benjamin then falls in love with Mrs. Robinson's college-age daughter, completing one of the most unforgettable love triangles in movie history. Producer Larry Terman was a Hollywood outsider when he read Webb's novel. He fell for the book and put up $1,000 of his own money to option the movie rights. Terman sent the book to comedian-turned-stage director Mike Nichols with an offer to direct. He tempted him with the now famous pitch, "I don't have any money, I don't have any studio, I have nothing, so let's do this." The pair spent the next 2 years searching for financing and a screenwriter who could adapt the book into the film they wanted to make. Then Nichols met Buck Henry at a 4th of July party at Jane Fonda's house. Henry had never written a screenplay before, but found the book irresistible. His final draft set the movie in motion. Nichols auditioned more than 100 actors, including some of the biggest names in Hollywood, before casting an unknown and unlikely leading man, Dustin Hoffman. And Bancroft stars as Mrs. Robinson, another unlikely choice, since the actor was only 6 years older than Hoffman and 8 years older than Catherine Ross, who played her daughter. Nichols and Terman hired an all-star production team that designed, then captured the film's iconic and original cinematography. The Graduate arrived in theaters 3 days before Christmas in 1967. It was an instant sensation and became the top-grossing movie of 1968. Simon and Garfunkel's soundtrack and the single Mrs. Robinson both became #1 hits in that year, too. And here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. I'll tell you more about the duo and how this movie rewrote the rules for movie music. But for now, slip into something a little more comfortable. Hit the lights and enjoy The Graduate. Definitely one of the greatest movie endings of all time. You know, it's hard to imagine The Graduate without those iconic Simon and Garfunkel songs. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Director Mike Nichols and editor Sam Osteen only intended to use The Sound of Silence, April Come She Will, and Scarborough Fair as placeholders to help them with editing. Producer Larry Terman had asked Paul Simon to write new songs for the film. But Simon was busy touring and never got around to it. But instead of rushing to find new music, Nichols and Osteen found that the placeholders worked perfectly with the film, and they decided to keep them. Today, the idea of adding contemporary hit songs to a movie may not sound radical, but in 1967 it was considered a bold, creative move. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? Now, speaking of creativity, The Graduate also broke new ground in editing.
Are you here for an affair, sir? What?
Set design and cinematography. When it came to putting together his production crew, Nichols stacked his deck with an all-star team of Hollywood veterans and talented rising stars. Cinematographer Robert Surtees wrote, quote, "We did more things in this picture than I ever did in one film." That's impressive, considering Surtees won an Oscar for Ben-Hur. Nichols and writer Buck Henry worked closely with production designer Richard Silver to plan the complex sequences of Benjamin's affair with Mrs. Robinson. They built Benjamin's home and the hotel room sets to allow clever cuts and transitions between locations. Even the film's hairstylist was legendary. Sidney Gilleroff was the go-to guy during Hollywood's golden age. His resume included The Wizard of Oz, Gone with the Wind, and Some Like It Hot.
Running wild, mighty bold.
In a 2017 interview, Dustin Hoffman talked about the first time he saw The Graduate in a movie theater. He recalled that during the church scene, the audience was on its feet, cheering. And on the way out, Hoffman was recognized for the first time by an older woman who pointed her cane at him and said, "Life will never be the same for you." She was right. In the decades since his debut in The Graduate, Hoffman has built an Oscar-winning career that includes such classics as Midnight Cowboy, Kramer vs. Kramer, and Rain Man. You can catch one of his most memorable roles, and my favorite, right here. Watch for the 1982 comedy Tootsie this November on Cinema 15.
I'd like to make her look a little more attractive. How far can you pull back?
How do you feel about Cleveland?
I'm very proud of being a woman, Dr. Brewster.
Well, that's all I have this week. I'm Danny Epperson, and I'll see you next time for WHRO Cinema 15 and another classic movie. I'm Danny Epperson. Here's a classic movie quiz. 1967's The Graduate stars Anne Bancroft and Dustin Hoffman.
I'll see you later, Mrs. Robinson.
Hoffman's character is a young man who has an affair with an older woman. How many years separated the actors in real life?
Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me.
Bancroft was less than 6 years older than Hoffman. You provide the popcorn, the couch, and the TV. We'll provide great movies like The Graduate. Watch Cinema 15 Saturday night at 8 on WHRO TV 15.